Call to order the meeting of the Verona Common Council for Monday, September 27th, 2021 at 7 p.m. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Next, we'll have the roll.
Alder Cronin.
Present.
Alder Hoaxed.
Present.
Alder Kemp.
Here.
Alder Kimmett.
Here.
Alder Posey.
Here.
Alder Reiki.
Here.
Alder Touche.
Present.
All right. Next, we'll move on to public comment. This is the time for members of the public to comment. If you wish to comment, you should come up to the podium right there and introduce yourself and sign in.
Hi, I'm Lee Jordan. I'm Executive Director of the Verona Area Chamber of Commerce, and I would like to speak with you tonight about the request for city funding from ICE Inc. for the expansion of the hockey facility. And as obviously I'm in favor of this request from a variety of different reasons. First off, we are the entity that manages the tourism funds for the city of Verona, which, as I'm sure you all know, that what we do with those funds is encourage people to come to Verona, spend the night in our hotels, visit our shops and our facilities and all of our sports facilities, everything that there is to do in Verona. And having this second sheet of ice would greatly help that tourism effort, because right now the ice rink, although it does a wonderful job, it could bring in more tournaments, having a second sheet of ice, bigger, larger tournaments. There could be opportunities during the months that the ice isn't needed to get rid of the ice and do other tournaments or activities there, which would also bring in tourism. And the time that the ice is there with the second sheet is the time that our hotels really need the rooms. That's the time of the year when we don't have the baseball tournaments, the soccer tournaments, the different outdoor hiking and biking. So this would be of great help to tourism for Verona. And the second part of that is, as the chamber, this would also help our local businesses, because I don't know if any of you have traveled with your kids to a sporting event or on vacation, but I'm forever and always forgetting something, and you buy it locally. This would help our restaurants, our gas stations, our grocery stores, our bars, our retail establishments. This would help all of our local businesses as well. And then the third thing is, being from a skating family, I know how difficult it was to get ice time for your different sports. And I was a figure skater, my brother was a speed skater, and we were always up against hockey for ice time. And I think the second sheet of ice would allow those other programs, in addition to not only the boys hockey, girls hockey, figure skating, speed skating, and also the public skate program and public opportunity to get out and experience ice skating. My children 20 years ago learned to skate here in the Learn to Skate program, and there's just not enough ice time with just the one sheet of ice. So I think it's not only good for tourism and our businesses, but it's also good for our community for the foreseeable future and for the long term. So I hope you'll consider approving their request. Thank you.
Thank you. We are still in the public comment, so if a member of the public wishes to speak, now would be the time to do so. Going once, going twice. All right. We will move on to item 5, which is approve the minutes from the September 13th, 2021 Common Council meeting. Questions, comments, corrections, or motions?
Move approval.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Reiki. Last chance for corrections. Seeing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the September 13th, 2021 Common Council meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? And that motion passes. Next, we'll move on to item 6, which is mayor's business. First up, we have a new member of our council who was appointed at the last meeting. So we'll go to 6A, which is the oath of office for Mara Helmke.
Okay, and then just repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Mara Helmke,
having been appointed to
having been appointed to
the office of Alderperson District 2
the office of Alderperson District 2
of the City of Verona,
of the City of Verona,
but not having yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but not having entered upon the duties thereof,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
All right, congratulations. Okay, perfect, thank you.
Excellent. Next, we'll move on to 6B, which is the appointment of Mara Helmke to the Public Works, Sewer, and Water Committee. I would accept motions to confirm this appointment.
Motion to confirm?
Motion by Alder Kimmett, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Kemp. All those in favor of approving Mara Helmke, or Alder Mara Helmke's appointment to the Public Works and Sewer and Water Committee, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? And that motion passes. Next, we will move on to 6C, which is the Badger Prairie Needs Network presentation. Oh, not on my packet. All right. Okay. No problem. All right, we will go with the one on the monitor. 6C is the presentation of the 2021 Epic Grant Awards. Sorry about that.
No worries. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Sver Rowing. I'm here on behalf of EPIC. I'm delighted to be here tonight to deliver donations to 5 wonderful organizations here in town, including the Badger Prairie Needs Network, the Fitch Verona EMS, the Verona Public Library, and the Verona Departments of Fire and Police. We are so thankful for the excellent working partnership we have with each of these organizations, and hope that this funding helps each group meet its goals, and in turn helps to support the community at large. So thank you very much.
And I just want to say thank you so much, and thank you to Epic for being just a great community partner. All right, we will move on to 60, which now for real is the Badger Prairie Needs Network presentation.
Oh, goodness. Hi, can you guys hear me okay? All right, first of all, I would just like to extend my personal thanks for letting me come and visit with you guys tonight. And I am Maggie Gleason. I'm the executive director over there at Badger Prairie Needs Network. And I would also like to extend a huge thank you from the entire organization for all of the support that we've received from you over the years. Obviously, a huge amount of support comes from the city every year. And we would not be able to do what we do over there without all of your support. So thank you so much. So I guess we'll get started. So our mission, for those of you who do not know, if you're new to the council or new to Verona, generally speaking, our mission at Badger Prairie Needs Network is we are dedicated to fighting poverty and ending hunger locally. We envision a strong and healthy community where access to nutritious food is readily available and where hunger at its very worst is just a temporary state and not a way of life for our guests. So we think it's really important, especially like the nutritious. I have a health and wellness background, so the key to that statement for me is the nutritious food aspect of it, which is something that we're starting to pivot towards a little bit more. Food pantries in the past have kind of just pushed calories out the door to their guests. And we're learning now that that's actually kind of detrimental to the health of the low-income families and children that we serve. So we're starting to really focus on a more nutritious aspect. So a little bit about our organization. We are a 100% volunteer 501c3 nonprofit organization, which includes myself. I am a volunteer. I don't get paid. We are guided by a board of directors. I think right now we have 13, so that number is actually a little bit, the list is a little bit wrong, but we have a board of directors who I answer to, and I also am supported by a delightful leadership team who supports my work as executive director. For those of you who don't know, we have actually been in continuous operation for 35 years. We started in 1986 in a church basement right here in Verona. Some community members got together, took a look, and saw that we needed to help our neighbors. There were some folks that needed food, and so they created a little closet pantry in the basement of that church. That carried them for a while, but the need grew, and so then we moved into the basement of the old library, which is now a church, I believe. And then in 2014, a group of community members got together and heard that the building that we now currently reside in was going to be demolished. And so they got together and they decided to move the food out of the library to the new location at 1200 East Verona Avenue. We moved into that building in 2015. It was a complete remodel of the building, and we were able to turn it into a beautiful food pantry. We also added a commercial kitchen and some other offices and things that we were able to run some programs out of. In 2018, we added onto the back of our building and created a program, a food recovery program called Kitchen to Table. And then in 2020, we were able to add on one more time to the north side of our building. We were able to increase our freezer and cooler capacity to about 500 square feet for each of those, which helped us really increase our capacity, not just for our own guests, but we are able to share, store and share food with other food pantries in the area as well. Now we're going to talk about normal times. In normal times, we actually run a lot of different programs out of our building. First and foremost, we are a food pantry. We served, in 2020, we were able to serve over 24,600 guests. Came through our drive-through, which was just under 1 million pounds of food went out the door to those guests, which is pretty remarkable. Those are not normal numbers. In normal times, we also have legal. We have legal services that we have a couple retired lawyers on call, and if we have guests or friends of guests or people that we know, they're referred to through our social worker or through the local clergy, and they help our guests with various legal disputes. Sometimes people with low income, they just can't afford a lawyer, and so then they get kind of, during eviction disputes and things like that, they really get the short end of the stick. And so being able to have access to legal advocacy for free has been really beneficial for those folks. We also, in normal times, and hopefully we'll get back to that this spring or maybe next summer, run a community meal out of our building on the first and third Saturdays of the month. The reason that we chose Saturday is because this is a time that fills the weekend meal gap. So students are not in school, they're not receiving school lunch. A lot of the senior meal programs aren't running on Saturdays, and so we decided to run a meal program, and it's been quite popular since we launched it in 2015. We have been able to serve over 18,000 meals during that time. We also, in our commercial kitchen, offer nutrition education classes. We partner with UW Health and with MATC as well. But we run a senior cooking club where they are able to learn how to make nutritious meals for smaller numbers of people. And then they are able to sit down and have a nice social lunch, which is delightful. We also run a Chop Chop cooking club, which is really close to my heart because it's a kids cooking club that I have participated in myself as a parent. That one is focused on trying to get kids to eat healthy and understand that fresh foods are really good for you. And yeah, your parents tell you to eat them at home, but try them somewhere else and you'll have better luck. At least I did. We also, with UW Health, run a 2020 fitness challenge, although again, all normal times. And then one of our other major big programs that we run is that Kitchen to Table Food Recovery Network. We partner with EPIC and with EPIC, Promega, and Exact Sciences. And what we do is with those big cafeterias they have out there, we go out to EPIC and we recover food that would otherwise be thrown away because they have excess food that they make for their employees. And over the course of 2020, we were able to save 1,888,000 pounds of food from going into the landfill, which is pretty remarkable. Some of the other partners we have on site in normal times are, we have a JFF social worker that comes and helps our guests half-time. We also had partnered with the Verona Area School District Transition Program. The students that graduate and are in special education programming have to stay with the program till they're 21, and we housed that program in our building. Like I said before, we have partnered with MATC and with UW Health as well. They all run programs out of our building. Again, primarily we're a food pantry that we've been running for 35 years. Excuse me. So for the first big chunk of time that we were in existence, we served just the Verona Area School District. Excuse me. In 2017, we took a look at some of the data from the 53593 zip code, which included a lot of the rural parts of, out towards Mount Horeb, down towards Belleville, and decided that we needed to maybe include some of those folks as well, because rural food insecurity is a real problem as well. So we picked up that service area. In 2019, we expanded one more time to include the Cesar Chavez Elementary School. With the way Fitchburg is kind of shaped, we were basically circling all of the Chavez attendance area, so we scooped them up too. And then in 2020, everything just went out the window, and we just decided, forget it, let's just serve all of Dane County. We started meeting with all of the other big food pantries in the area, the River, St. Vinny's, Mom up in Middleton. I meet with them monthly. And we all what we decided to do was sort of collaborate our efforts and became almost like a consortium, like a food pantry grouping where we kind of decided to take the rules and make them all very similar. So to break down as many barriers to access food as humanly possible. So we all dropped our service areas to include all of Dane County, and we all allow guests to come either twice a month or as many times as they need to come. So this is a little graph showing just how much we've grown since we moved into the building in 2015. I did not include 2020 because it would have just gone right up to the ceiling. We saw a huge spike in need last year, so I didn't put that data in, but we saw a 66% increase in our guests that we served from the time we moved into the building to 2019. In 2020, obviously, everything kind of went a little bit crazy, and we had to close our doors, and we were no longer a free choice shopping pantry, and we moved to a drive-through model where everything that we send out right now is pre-boxed. We did add a delivery service, so if someone maybe couldn't make it to the pantry because they had an exposure in their house to COVID or just had general mobility issues and weren't able to come, we were able to deliver that food to them. For a while, we did relax our ID rules, but those are back in place now. We increased visits to twice a month, added a lot of safety protocols, and all of this increased our costs quite a bit because we were packaging food, so we had to pay a lot of money for packaging that we never really had to do before. But we were also able to increase our capacity with those cooler and freezer, so that was a benefit to the pandemic. This is our snapshot of 2020. Like I said before, we sent out over 995,000 pounds of food. If you add what we sent out with Kitchen to Table, that number goes up to over 1 million pounds of food went out our doors, out into the community to guests. We served 24,600 individuals. 10,000 of those were children in the area. And with our partnerships with EPIC, Promega, and Exact Sciences, we were able to send out 94 tons of grab-and-go meals, which are so convenient for our families at work, to come home and just be able to pop something into the microwave and heat it up for their family has been really beneficial. A little bit about our Kitchen to Table program. This was launched in 2015, like I said before. Nope, 2018, my apologies. And this is a collaboration that we have with our partners with EPIC and Promega, UW Hospital, CUNY Mutual, and some of the area grocery stores in town as well. And basically what we do is we're just trying to keep food out of the landfill and get it into the mouths and bellies of those that need it. You know, Dane County has no problem with food scarcity. We have so much food in the system right now that we're just trying to like fill and bridge the gap between those that the food access and those that need it. And so that's what the Kitchen to Table program helps us do. A little bit about this program. Wasted food is diverted from local landfills because we go and rescue it, and then we're able to bring it back to our building and repackage it. This not only reduces waste for the landfills, but it helps reduce waste management costs for the local businesses, so it's beneficial for them as well. We not only distribute it to our guests from Badger Prairie Needs Network, but we share it with all kinds of food pantries in the area: Belleville, Oregon, Stoughton, River, St. Benny's. All those folks come and we either take them food or they come and get it. And this is a model that Marcia Cachetta envisioned being like replicable to the whole nation. It just didn't get off the ground because COVID hit. But in 2019, we were able to recover 50 tons of food, and in 2020, we recovered 94 tons of food. So a little bit about where we're moving into the future. In 2022, we will be completing another addition, the final one this time, because we're maxing out the footprint of the building. So we are actually going to, during the 2020 remodel, we actually took over the space that used to be our community room, and it is now going to be our waiting room. And so if we want to continue with the community meal and also with other programming we want to bring in, we needed to add on another space. So we are adding on a 4,800 square foot community center to the south of our building towards Verona Avenue. And that space is going to be utilized with our partnerships with Latino Academy. They're going to bring down their CDL classes and ESL classes and a bunch of other training opportunities for people to be able to have access to job training so that we can match them with jobs that are going to be better than like low-paying minimum wage jobs and more avenues of careers with opportunity for advancement, which is just not available on this side of town. A lot of that stuff happens on the north side, which is difficult for some of our guests to get to. So we're going to bring that programming down to this side of the county. So with this addition, we are going to continue serving all of Dane County households. We are going to continue the food recovery operations, and we're going to bring back that popular weekend meal program. We're also going to launch the job programs with our partners with the Latino Academy and the Workforce Development Board of Wisconsin. And then eventually, a little bit further down the line, I would also like to find other strategic partners and launch some more wellness programming for our guests. It's my vision as the executive director that I would like to take a little more holistic approach to fighting poverty. We've done a really great job with the physical part of the physical dimension of wellness by giving food out to people for a long time. And now it's time to address some of the other issues, I think. We'd also like to launch a speaker series where people will come in and it's open to the community to listen and have an open dialogue about various topics that are related to low income and food insecurity and things like that. And then eventually we may open it up to public use or for rental space. And that's all I have. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions from the council? Seeing none? Oh, sorry. Alder Posey?
I would say it's not entirely a question, but it's more of a thank you for everything that you and the team over there have been doing. A little embarrassed. I didn't realize it was 100% volunteer. I figured there was maybe one or two staff.
Oh, no, we're all
So
volunteers.
I'm impressed to hear, because I'm aware of everything that goes on over there and the commitment that kind of thing takes. And so to hear that it's 100% volunteer, that really means that there's a community backing it. And I'm thoroughly impressed, and thank you for coming in and sharing all this with all of us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. And yeah, I mean, as an all-volunteer organization, that's one of the things that really attracted me to the organization, and was that it was all volunteer, and it is really, truly is. We're neighbors helping neighbors, so it's such a great environment. Thanks.
Alder Cronin?
As we are hopefully coming out of the pandemic, where can people find more information about how they can volunteer?
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody wants to volunteer, our website, we have a little volunteer tab. So if you go to www.bpnn.org, you can follow the volunteer tab and fill out a little form, and we'll send you information through the email. Thanks.
Alder Kemet.
I know during the pandemic, food drives have canceled. When do we expect those to ramp back up?
Yeah, we are starting to welcome those back, especially as a business owner. If you want to do one at your bookstore, that would be really great. But I would, I would really love you for you to do that. But what you can do is reach out either to me or my inventory coordinator at inventory@bpnn.org. If you email her, she'll set you up with what, like the top 5 items that we need and kind of a timeline. I know the high school will start their food drive pretty soon, so really we'll be good for food drives for a little bit, but January and February are typically some of our driest times in terms of donations, and so I think it'd be really great if you could touch base with us then. Thank you.
Other questions from the council? All right, well, thank you so much for all the work you do, and thank you for speaking with
Thanks,
us.
guys.
All right. And with that, we will move on to 6E, which is the Trick or Treat Proclamation, which I'll read right now. City of Verona Proclamation Halloween Trick or Treat Hours. In the interest of promoting Halloween safety for Verona area children, I, Luke Diaz, Mayor of the City of Verona, hereby proclaim the official hours of trick or treating in the City of Verona to be between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. on Sunday, October 31st, 2021. And that concludes Mayor's business. With that, we will move on to item 7, announcements. Does anyone on the council have any announcements? Alder Cronin.
Also pandemic related, but I did just want to make a plug that at the Verona Library, there is a TerraCycle box where people can bring their disposable masks and they will be recycled instead of ending up in the landfill.
Thank you for mentioning that. Alder Kemet.
I just wanted to announce that there will be a Bands Off Our Bodies March on October 2nd at the Capitol to support women's reproductive rights.
All right, any other announcements from the council? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 8, the administrator's report. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. I don't have too much tonight. We do have a plan commission meeting on Monday, October 4th. I know Holly sent out an email regarding the joint city-town fire meeting, which is tentatively planned for October 18th. So if you have not responded to Holly, please get back to her as soon as we can so we can kind of get that on the calendar. Regarding redistricting, staff continues to work on the redistricting process. Dane County is planning to complete their district work by October 15th or sooner. Once the county completes their work, city staff will be able to finalize municipal wards. The goal is to present 2 options to the council to consider with an adoption of the new district sometime in November. And Dane County did hold a public hearing on September 23rd to obtain feedback from the public on draft supervisory districts. So that process remains ongoing. We do have our free annual e-waste day, which is October 23rd from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Public Works facility. Additional information is available on the city's website. All items need to be placed in a trunk or rear storage this year for removal by city staff. And all residents are required to remain in the vehicle due to COVID pandemic precautions. And this is available to city residents only. And lastly, if you didn't notice the fire station, we did receive the new fire truck that came in today. So that's something that people will see around town, and we'll see them, the firefighters training at the facility. So that is finally on site, and his staff is getting used to it. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Sayer? Seeing no questions, we will move on to item 9, engineers report. Ms. Fisher.
Thank you. I'll just focus on the updates tonight. For the East Side Interceptor project, the Lincoln Street Bridge and path between the Lincoln Street cul-de-sac and Hillcrest Drive is planned to be closed starting this Wednesday, September 29th, for approximately 2 weeks to complete path grading and paving. Remaining storm sewer and culvert installation is planned to be completed in the next couple of weeks. Path construction has begun and paving is planned in early October. Dane County's Stream Bank Improvements Project has begun and is anticipated to be completed in the next couple of weeks. There was a figure included with the report that showed stream bank grading and log sills just north of the Lincoln Street channel. And finally, the 9th and final neighborhood progress meeting was held on September 15th by project staff. And estimated final project completion is mid to late October for this project. For the Lincoln Street Stormwater Facility, the project is about 75% complete as of last week. November 5th is the projected completion date. For the development projects in the city, the Sugar Creek Commons Public Improvements Project work along West Verona Avenue is complete and all lanes are open to traffic except for the eastbound right turn to Legion Street. Legion Street remains closed with paving scheduled for last Friday, and then pavement marking was scheduled for today. We believe that Legion Street will be reopened prior to September 30th. For Kettle Creek North Phase 4, sidewalk and curb and gutter have been completed. Crews are currently placing topsoil and adjusting utilities. Lower lift paving is planned for the beginning of October. The project is anticipated to be completed within the next month. For Woods at Cathedral Point Phase 2, storm sewer work resumed on September 21st. Street grading will get started this week. The contractor and developer are projecting a late October completion. Work at the intersection of Range Trail and County Highway M will be shifting from the Range Trail corners to the north side of County Highway M during this week. Surface paving of the Phase 1 streets is also scheduled for this week. For Woods at Cathedral Point Phase 3, the erosion control permit has been issued and grading of the phase is in progress. A pre-construction meeting was held last Thursday, September 23rd. Underground utility work is expected to start this week. This phase is expected to be completed in November, weather pending. For Morningside Boulevard, sanitary sewer and water main have been installed and storm sewer is currently being installed. There will be periodic daytime right lane closures along County Highway M for intersection and electrical work. This appears to be following the schedule provided by the contractor, and anticipated completion is early to mid-November. And finally, for the Costco site and public improvements, the initial site grading has occurred. A pre-construction meeting for the public improvements adjacent to the site is anticipated to occur in the next couple of weeks, with utility installations occurring after that. And with that, I can take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Fisher? Alder Cronin.
For the Sugar Creek Commons public improvements, my understanding is that the Verona Homecoming Parade route has changed and will be using Legion Street, which is October 1st. Are the developers aware of that, and will the street be, in fact, able to accommodate that?
You can go ahead. I'm not aware of anything.
I know it's been paved. I went by it today. It's paved. It looks like they did not get it paved on Friday. I think I went by there on Saturday and it was not paved. But driving by it this evening, it was paved. It looks like they still have to get the markings down. So, I'm not an engineer, but in my opinion, they could probably easily run a parade on that road if they had to. And the weather's going to be great the next, 3-4 days. So, what we'll do is after the meeting, and we'll relay the message back to the developer, but it's our understanding that it's going to get wrapped up here very quickly.
Other questions on the engineer's report? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 10, committee reports. First up, we have 10A, Finance Committee. Alder Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion for the payment of the bills in the amount of $600,436.11.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Posey. Alder Kemp.
Yes, just for the sake of discussion, we had a payment of $224,241.53 to the City of Madison for the County Trunk M project, and a payment of $198,367 to the City of Madison for our third quarter Metro Transit program.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on the motion to pay the bills? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of paying the bills in the amount specified signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Kemp.
Yes, I'd also like to make a motion approving resolution for ordinance number R-21-041, approving the new fee schedule for the City of Verona.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Cronin. Alder Kemp.
Yes, just my understanding is that we have not adjusted the fee schedules for licenses, permits, and registrations, and it hadn't been done, I think, is it 10 years, Adam? Is that correct or no?
No, we adopt this every year, but the building inspection fees that
That's
were
right.
changed in here have not been touched for more than 10 years.
That's correct. It was specific to the building inspection, so it was time for us to overhaul that, so we need to do it.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of resolution number 21-041, approving the fee schedule for 2022, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from Finance?
Nothing further, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to 10B, which is the Public Safety Committee. Alderiki.
Thank you. I'd like to move approval for an application for a combination Class B intoxicating liquor and Class B fermented malt beverage license from Grace Coffee LLC, doing business as Grace Coffee, 150 West End Circle, Verona, Wisconsin, contingent upon final approval from the building inspector and fire department.
Motion by Alderiki, seconded by Alder Touche. Alderiki.
The explanation is the applicant is applying for this Class B fermented malt beverage and Class B intoxicating liquor license for their coffee shop/restaurant in Market 5. The applicant operates other locations in Madison, Middleton, and Sun Prairie. Staff recommends approval of the license contingent upon the approval from the building inspector and fire department.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the application for the combination Class B intoxicating liquor and Class B fermented malt beverages license for Grace Coffee LLC, doing business as Grace Coffee at 150 West End Circle, Verona, Wisconsin, with the contingencies specified, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. That motion passes. Alderiki.
I'll move approval for a special event permit application and temporary Class B fermented malt beverage and Class B wine license from Lee Jordan, Verona Area Chamber of Commerce, for Fall Fest on October 1st from 4 to 11 p.m., contingent upon fire department inspection of the fire pits once they're installed.
Motion by Alderiki, seconded by Alder Touche. Alderiki.
This event will take place at Festival Park. Activities include hay rides, pumpkin painting, petting zoo, outdoor movie, crafts, farmers market, food trucks, and a beer tent. There will be licensed bartenders at the event, and anyone drinking will be required to have their ID checked and wear a wristband. There will be a band playing from 4 to 10:30 p.m. Staff recommends approval with the contingency about the fire pits.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions or comments on this motion? I think it'll be a great event. But seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of granting the special event permit and temporary Class B fermented malt beverage and Class B wine license for Lee Jordan, Verona Area Chamber of Commerce for the Fall Fest on October 1 from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion passes. Anything further from Public Safety?
Nothing further, thanks.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to 10C, which is Public Works, Sewer, and Water Committee. Alder Touche.
Thank you. I am making a motion to approve ordinance number 21-988, amending section 5-5-81 of the Code of Ordinances related to fire hydrants.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Kemp, I think. Alder Touche.
The fire department and public works staff coordinated to revise code language regarding the winter maintenance activities of fire hydrants. This proposed ordinance is to reinsert language staff believe to be within the code regarding the blocking of fire hydrants due to snow. Our city attorney reviewed the past ordinance language and prepared a proposed ordinance for the fire and public works to review. In section 5581, paragraph A is our current code. Paragraph B is the proposed language regarding snow removal responsibilities around the fire hydrant. Put simply, we assumed that there was already ordinances in place that followed the guidelines. We're just catching up to the guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you for that explanation. Any discussion on this motion? Alder Rigi, and then Alder Cronin.
Can you just explain what that means for residents with fire hydrants in the terrace on their property?
Sure, I will do my best. Put simply, if it's on your property, you need to deal with it. If it is between two residences, in the code it defines if your street runs east and west, the east side neighbor is responsible for it. If it runs north and south, we'll have to think about this one. I believe the north side? Correct, thank you. So let's just keep our fire hydrants clear, so if there is an issue, we can get our fires taken care of.
Alder Cronin.
So my question was actually related to that. If there is a fire hydrant that is between two properties, when someone buys a new property, how will they be informed of this if it's their responsibility?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I did ask that this update get put in our water bill. so that one that's coming up for this next quarter, I can ensure that when Public Works puts out the water notice every year about the water quality and so on, that's also included.
Further discussion on this item? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of ordinance number 21-988, amending section 5-5-81 of the Code of Ordinances relating to fire hydrants, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Touche.
Thank you. I am making a motion to approve a professional services agreement with JT Engineering for construction engineering inspection services at the Woods at Cathedral Point Phase 3 project.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Kimmett. Alder Touche.
This agreement is for construction engineering inspection services at Woods at Cathedral Point for the Phase 3 public improvements. JT Engineering is also performing the construction engineering inspection services for Phases 1 and 2 already. Public Works staff is recommending that the contract with JT Engineering be approved. This is a pass-through cost to the developer, with the contract not exceeding $64,471.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second? Oops, sorry, that was the explanation, right?
It was.
Sorry. Confused. The amount specified should have been part of the original.
Sure.
Okay. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the professional services agreement with JT Engineering for construction engineering / inspection services at the Woods at Cathedral Point Phase 3 in the amount specified, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from Public Works?
Nothing on the agenda. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 11, new business. First up, we have 11A, which is a discussion and possible action regarding resolution number 21-042, requesting exemption from the county library tax. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. Since the city of Verona funds its own library, which exceeds the minimum standards established by the Dane County Board, the city may request an exemption from paying the Dane County library tax. To maintain this exemption, the city needs to take action each year formally making the request to the Dane County Board. The proposed resolution will exempt the city from the Dane County library tax, and we do this every year about this time.
Thank you for the explanation. Questions, comments, or motions? Alder Cronin.
I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number 21-042, requesting exemption from the county library tax.
Motion by Alder Cronin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, I believe, by Alder Kimmett. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of resolution number 21-042, requesting exemption from the county library tax, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. We'll move on. We'll move on to our final item, which is 11B, which is a discussion regarding the request for city funding for the Ice Inc. for the expansion of the hockey facility located at 451 East Verona Avenue.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the time. You can come on up. Just want to give you a quick little history of the rink. It's been open for 27 years. In those 27 years, the kids have won 26 state champions. That's pretty awesome. Besides that, the high school team has won 2 championships and 2 runner-ups in the last 10 years. So hockey is a pretty big sport here in Verona, obviously. We grew from 8 years ago, we were at 175 kids. Right now, we're over 300. Mainly because we pulled all the girls' teams in for the Dane County. They had no place to play the U14 kids. They played, and when they turn, that's a bantam age, a lot of times they start checking, so the girls quit. We gave them an opportunity to grow. Because we did so well with that team, now they want to go with a U12 team and keep growing if they can. We're at a situation because of that we don't have enough ice time. We're sitting there with 10, 12 hours short right now a week, and doesn't sound like a lot when you figure how many hours in a week, because you realize that we only play from 5 to 9, Monday through Friday, and then the weekend. So that's a substantial amount of ice. I think that the we're at the point where we're putting 50-minute ice times out there instead of an hour, so we get more kids out there. We're putting, some of the kids have 50, 60 kids on the ice. I think, the part of that is the fact that there's not going to be enough ice time, so we have to figure out a way to get more ice for them. So we're proposing to start a new rink. We hired a fundraiser, Jody Sweeney. She's supposed to be one of the best in the country. She's done a great job for us. We've done a lot of work on all this for the last 6 months. We need to start building the blocks, and the first block has to be the city. We have to be part of this, I hope, because of the fact that a lot of times the city and the county are the ones that build the hockey rinks, because the money that you need to build a rink doesn't justify by the amount of money you charge for the ice time. So you have to have a lot of money up front, because your debt load, you can't handle it. We do have a lot of community support. We have over 80 sponsors right now inside the rink with signs and other things that they sponsor. I think that we do a lot. You guys helped us with Hometown Brew Down. Thank you for that. We raised $10,000, $15,000. We haven't got the final numbers yet. But those are the things that keep the rink going between the sponsors and whatnot. We asked for four different things. Individually, I'd like to each consider them separately because each are important. The mayor asked me to do the most important down to the least important. Most important is obviously we need to have a lease for 99 years for $1 a year. I think we already have that because the property that we're on now, I think that's the same lot, and I'd have to get that, for sure, because if there's ever a time where you need a loan, no bank's going to give you a loan if you don't have a lease on the land. Second thing we asked for is the parking lot. If you see the second page, it's the stuff that's in red. With those, we have enough parking then for that facility for the most part, except for big games. But not only will the hockey rink use it, you're going to need more parking for park over here, the drama center. A lot of parking in that area could be used, and I think that the whole community would benefit from that. Since you guys control all the parking around the area now, we would hope that you would be able to put that in your budget and be able to get that for us off our end of the needs. Third thing we're asking for is for money for pledging. Okay, a little confusing. I'll try to explain what we're trying to do here. We're going to try to raise money over 5 years. So if a person says, "I'll give you $5,000," we're going to go say, "Hey, how about you give us $3,000 for 5 years? Make it $15,000." Pledging that each year. I asked the banker. I says, "Well, is that a little dangerous? There's no legal rights there." He said, "Well," he says, "that's how churches get built. They pledge the money," and he says, 90% of the time people pay the money, so it's a pretty good deal. I think that the pledges will be back means we'll prove to you the pledges that we have, and that's what you need. If we get $3 million of the pledges, then that's what we'd like you to back. You wouldn't have to give us any money for that until we start building. Okay, so from the time we start building, which would be at least a year, we'll have the first 20% of it down. Second 20% will be coming in the next year, obviously, as you start to build. And each year we'll give you a balloon payment of what we get will come to you. So each year that $3 million or whatever that number is will go down each year substantially, hopefully. At the end of that, if there's anything left over, the bank has already gave us a line of credit for $2 million, so we can pay off the balance and get you folks off the hook at that point in time. Any questions? Well, I'll go back and finish it up here. The fourth thing, obviously, is we'd like to get a grant for $100,000 to give us a good start. We need to know what's going on as far as the city is concerned, where we're going to stand. I think that we need to start now. We're in a point where we're ready to go out and start asking for money from people. We want to make sure that they know that the city's involved. Our board and the board there's two different boards, a board that runs the rink and a board for the kids. Everybody on those boards committed to making some type of payment donation to the club. So everybody is involved and wants to be a part of this. Lee was very good with all the different things of what's going to happen there. I think that we can use that facility year-round for having other things, other tournaments and whatnot. I think we can bring a lot of tournaments in, but I think that also it's important that you realize that we need to be able to go to the other people and say, is this going to be feasible? You know, people don't want to give their money unless it's going to happen. We're going to set a fund up, an escrow fund up. All the money will go in the escrow fund until we start building, so that everybody has their money separated from our money in a separate fund. If it doesn't happen for any reason, I hope it doesn't happen that way, but we can also then give the money back. I think that it's important that as a city, we need to realize that if we want another hockey rink, now's the time to do it. Sun Prairie built a double hockey rink, 6 years ago? 6 years ago, was $7 million, okay? One hockey rink was not quite that much, but my point is, if we don't do it now, inflation's going to take it out of the situation. It'll never get done unless the city wants to do it all on their own. So I think that if you guys can help us out now, I think we can get this thing built. I think it'd be great for kids for the next 30 years. If we don't get it done, then we're going to have to stop some of the programs or stop growing because we physically don't have enough ice. So I'm hoping you'll support us. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer any of them.
Any questions for Mr. O'Brien? Alder Posey.
I know there's a little bit in the information you provided us, but I'm hearing a lot about hockey, which I know we have a huge hockey program here. I think for me, being not a hockey parent and actually a skating parent otherwise, I'm curious what the commitment is to everything else beyond hockey.
The unique thing that we have going, Joe, you want to answer that?
Yeah, so just on an introduction, this is Mike O'Brien. He is the Ice Inc. President, who's the nonprofit board of volunteers that oversees the operation of the facility. My name is Joel Marshall. I'm the Director of Operations of the facility, also the school district's high school varsity coach for the last 13 years. So been around the community. I'm a Verona resident as well. Tying to that, yes, a hockey guy running a skating facility. A number of years ago, that's why we kind of changed the name of the facility. It used to be Eagles Nest Ice Arena, based on the Youth Association. It seemed like a private entity and a club that public really didn't come to. When I took over, one of our main objectives, we changed it, our operation name, to Verona Ice Arena, which our public skate and our Learn to Skate program almost doubled in that time. So with the second sheet of ice, commitment to our Learn to Skate programs, as Lee mentioned, is a huge asset to our Learn to Skate, which is all beginner skaters from 2-year-olds to 50, 60, 7-year-olds. We still currently run the only senior skate program in the state, which every Wednesday morning I have anywhere from 20 to 30 on some given Wednesdays of 55 plus skaters that come out. So little entities like that I think are going to be huge that we can include. From the figure skating, from the broom ball, we have next month starting Verona Area School District's FIED program. So they come in for individual sports. They skate for a month each semester. As far as that goes, we have, in a normal year with the school district, we have about 6 to 7 different classes every year that come over for field trips, whether it's skating programs or rewards programs for their kids. As far as, obviously, the girls is a huge aspect. The figure skating club, we have a speed skating that some of you have known in the past for national events. In the off seasons, from the spring and the fall seasons, are huge for some of those events that we can now host if we have the ice availability. So, any other questions from the
little
skating
follow-up
side?
Yeah, so can you touch base, because as far as I'm aware, the figure skating club has not been engaged yet. And obviously I see the hockey folks here.
To a degree. So on our group, we do have the figure skating, which we don't have our own club in Verona. So we have, I'll say 2 major kind of groups, 3 in the area. We do have ice for the once a week right now, because it's basically all we can give, is the Southern Wisconsin Figure Skating Club. They base theirs out of McFarland. They love to get on this side. Madison Ice Arena has a huge skating club. They don't have enough ice as well. So it's reaching out, feeling once we get the kind of the green light to push a little bit further, we will reach out and say, hey, this is going to happen, and get their support from that. But it's something definitely, it's in our agenda for more ice time availability for them.
We'd like to have our own club.
Yeah, eventually that'll delve to that.
Yeah, and I don't know that it needs own club, but I just know that I spoke to the vice president of Southern Wisconsin Figure Skating the other day, and she was not aware of this coming up, that this development was happening. So I was kind of surprised by that, knowing how big of a potential there could be for the community at large.
Oh, yeah.
And so.
Dina Heinlein is our Learn to Skate
Well,
director.
it wasn't Dina. It
Yes.
wasn't Dina.
Yeah, so
It was a
she's
different
aware,
person.
but yeah, from the president's side might not be.
So, but thank you.
I have Alder Kemp, then Alder Kimmett.
Yes, first, thank you, gentlemen, for coming in, and thank everyone else for being here. I'm glad you're here showing your support for the youth in the community. I personally have never had a pair of ice skates on my feet in my life, and at this point, it's never going to happen. But I want to ask you, I'm a member of another committee here, a local athletic association, and it's been really difficult for us to get the necessary time for our kids. It's not hockey, but our kids to get time in the facility that they need. With what you're proposing right here and the ask you're asking of the city, are you certain that if this is built, that this would actually fulfill the need that you have right now? And then going further into the future, have you kind of figured out how much space that's going to afford going into the future as you expand?
Yes, obviously a second sheet is going to double the amount that we have. Our club right now is not at that point, but the opportunities for others in the surrounding areas is in high demand as well. We're in the same boat. All the other neighboring community rinks that are out there are in a very, very similar situation where it is. We have kids on the ice now that are fifth graders that are not getting off the ice tonight until 8:40. And a regular slotted time for 6th, 7th graders could be 10 p.m., 10:15 p.m. where they're coming out. And with the elementary kids in the early school this year, it's a challenge for them. Forecasting out, we will have ample ice initially that we will reach out to the neighboring communities and associations, high school programs, girls' high school programs to fulfill the need as other user groups to come in. If we do feel the need where internally we start growing, then we take care of our own first that are establishing from the start, and then we can work from there. But there'll be plenty of ice in the recent years, and then down the road we will adjust as needed.
Thank you.
Alder Kimmett.
So with the investment from the city, I was wondering if there will be any reduced rates for city residents, sort of like what they do with the recreation program here in town?
It has been brought up on my side as far as our programming, like our Learn to Skate program. It's something that we do run in-house currently, but it's not out of the question to run it potentially through like the Parks and Rec department to get them involved, that it's a little broader reach to the community through the schools. That from the resident side, our public skates are very, very nominal as far as what you pay for a little recreation time. With our limited amount of time we have now, it's hard to structure because of our demand from our youth. So it's pretty limited to set up a big program, but when we have more ice time available, we'll prioritize key ice time that's popular on weekends that'll be geared for the public for sure.
So in sort of a follow-up to the fiscal side, I am not a hockey person, so I had no idea, but I'm looking at sort of the registration fees to be involved in hockey, and it's pretty expensive. Would there be any kind of scholarship program we would be providing for residents to join?
Yeah, so we do have for low-income families, there are through the So we have two different entities here through the Youth Association. Some of that is a little bit of supply and demand as far as the ice time goes. It's expensive to run the facility. That's something we take on our budget. It's not looking at for years to bail us out of any kind of hole from that side. We very confident that we can run it ourselves. As far as discounts and scholarships, the Youth Association does have that for low income for sure. Simple applications, there's 2 to 3 different avenues that they can go to apply for. With more ice time, beginner programs, introductory programs will become more readily available as well.
I don't think any kid has ever been left from Roanoke because they couldn't afford it. We've always found a way to have every child stay on the ice.
Other questions? Alderiki.
It looks like there's like a hallway for the Zamboni to get between the two ice rinks. Would this, what you're asking for, include the purchase of a second Zamboni? And I'm mainly asking because I want to say that word several times.
No, like the construction on it is the way the design, we are still working through some fine details with final layouts before we present that potentially. The most economical design in the land is to kind of have a connector building between, which we'd have locker rooms, an extended Zamboni space. 2 sheets can be operated with 1 Zamboni. With scheduling logistics obviously being coordinated on our side from the management side. But not at this point. I mean, it's part of our full number that we may have to get a second or another. We have other means that we're trying to get in sponsorship that might take that route for the Zamboni.
Alder Hoax.
Just a question about, I heard about bringing teams in for tournaments. Obviously doubling your ice capacity. Like what would you say if you had a tournament that you could put on? How many people do you think that brings to the city? Skaters, parents, obviously it's hard to judge the economic impact, but if you had to guess, there's a number of people coming into the city.
Well, a typical weekend tournament through the Youth Association now would be an 8-team tournament, which would fill up basically your Saturday and Sunday. It's like a 3-team or a 3-game tournament with a double sheet. You could potentially have 2 of those. So now you're talking 16 teams. Obviously, depending on the season and the type and the host of that tournament, a couple will be local. It could be 2, 3 in a current setting of an 8-team, might be local area teams where hotel nights might not be, but you're talking 5. If you go to 16, you're talking at least 10. Something that we are not even in the bidding conversation with is the regional and national tournaments that are out there. That is something that with it, they don't even look at a single sheet facility because they can't accommodate a national tournament, won't come into a single sheet facility to host. Something that Sun Prairie has that Middleton with Capital Ice Arena have. That's something we have tons of connections with nationally, regionally. So you're talking 15 plus teams coming in with 15 plus families per team. So it's pretty exponential as far as in one weekend what could happen. I get asked there's 3 main groups that I work with now that I wish I could do more, but we can only host about 2 of them currently outside of the current youth association. So regionally, nationally, there's some very big tournaments. Madison, which we are considered, is a hotbed right now for hockey with the university programs, men's and women's, and the buzz they've gotten in the last couple of years. There's a big draw, obviously beautiful community for the winter sports. So,
other questions from the council? Thank you. We're going to discuss it, but yeah. Before we get into the agenda item, I did just want to say for my, I have a pretty good guess, but just for my understanding, how many people in the audience are here on behalf of the funding request for Ice Inc.? If you could show of hands. Okay, that's about what I thought. And then I guess my second thing is, we do have it marked as a potential closed session on the council agenda. I think, where we're at in the discussion, we can probably just do it all in open session. So, I mean, I guess my advice to the council would be to think of this the way we look at initial development review. So it's, yes, no, maybe, yes, if this happens, no, if this happens. And so I would encourage people to be forthright and just let everyone know what you're thinking. And if it's too early to have an opinion, that's a legit answer too. But with that, any discussion from the council? Alder Kemp.
I can start. I have two opinions. I sit on the finance committee, so I know how, we're going through the budget right now, so I know how tight things are right now. So there's that reality that I have to deal with, but I also understand as a parent of a child that's in sports, and when you're limited with respect to access to facilities, it's extremely frustrating. You're spending a lot of money to try and allow your kids to have an experience and to get them out on the ice or in a pool or whatever it may be on a basketball court. So in principle, I don't have a problem with the request. I would like to have some more time to talk with staff on the financial side, just to see what's feasible, at least at this point, as we work through the budget. But that's my initial thoughts. I know I'm kind of hedging, but that's where I am at this point. Obviously, if money wasn't an option, then I'd be, right now voting for it. So, but I appreciate everyone coming in and thank you for your time.
Other comments from the council? Alder Posey and then Alder Ricky.
I'll share very similar comments because I also sit on our finance committee, so we're just sort of in dollars and cents right now for the city. And I think that's the biggest impact, is evaluating what we even have to be able to support a project like this. I think in theory, we'd all love to say absolutely to every single project that is such a wonderful impact for our community. And I think nobody's denying that. It simply comes down for me to be able to see if we have the funds available to be able to do the commitment that you're looking for, or which parts of it we could look at to make sure that we can still make our budget work.
Alder Ricky.
Thanks. I have never sat on the finance committee, so I don't know about the $100,000 grant possibility. But I wonder if anyone from the city could comment on the work to perform to clear the construction site and make it ready for, well, I guess maybe even install the parking lot and the land donation, essentially. Is the city equipped to do those kinds of things?
Mr. Sayer, or?
I think I caught part of that question. So we with regarding number one, I think regarding the lease, I think was the question. So we have an existing lease, as Mike kind of said. That lease was actually, we entered into that in 1994. It's for 50 years. I think every year you owe us $10, and I don't think we've asked you for it. I don't think you paid it, and we're fine with that. Actually, half of that goes to the town as well. So the property is jointly owned by both the city and the town. But I think regarding the lease of it, we have an existing lease that runs through 2043. It's been a good relationship, I mean, from our standpoint as staff. So, I mean, I don't think that's $10 a year or $1 a year is zero to us. So that I don't think is a problem regarding that item on there. Regarding the performing the work necessary to clear the construction site, I think one of the items, and maybe I missed it, but I mean, what is the timing ultimately? Because that obviously factors into any of these kind of conversations when you start talking budget and financial decisions. Are you looking for this money today? Are you looking to start this project next year, 2-3 years? What's the timing of it?
I think the whole, we need to have this first done, obviously, and the reason we're doing it today is because we're talking about next year's budget. So next year is from January to December. I'm hoping between January and December, we'll get started. In a real world, we probably won't get started, until late spring or early fall, somewhere in there, before we can get this thing started. Obviously, we won't build this until we have the money. I mean, the one thing I will not do is we've worked very hard to be in a position where we're debt-free. We got $200,000 in the bank. That's a good position to be. I will not be in a situation where we have to worry about Band-Aids and stuff where we have to keep things going. We're not going to jeopardize one rink for two. So, bottom line is we won't start until we know we have enough money to make it happen. So that depends on how generous people are when we go out to ask people. I mean, we have some really, this lady we hired went out and talked to about 30 people that could donate a fairly decent check. Nobody said they would not help. So she's pretty enthused. She thinks, she does this for a living. Her job is she does interviews people. She doesn't ask them what to give money, but just, are you interested in the project? And everyone was interested. Out of the 30 people, she said, and the other connections that we have, and there's some other things that happened that we can't talk about because it's got to be confidential, so we have to keep that. We have a partner that might come in and help us out a lot. If that happens, I think we can do this relatively quickly then. She thinks she can raise $2 to $3 million, $2 million relatively quickly, and another $1 million over a period of 6 to 8 months, 10 months. So there's 3 of it right there. If we get another partner, you guys help out. We go to the bank, and the bank will give us a line of credit for $2 million right now. Most facilities together are going to be worth over $10 million, and they'll be, one's debt-free. So it wouldn't be hard to get $2 to $3 million. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go borrow any money. I want to try to get this done. And again, we don't know until we go out and start asking. We're ready to start asking, but we have to have the knowledge of where the city stands, and obviously the big thing is also if we have to borrow $3 million at 4.5%, we lose that money. If we borrow, if you guys help us with the pledges, and we want to pay 1%, that's a heck of a lot difference. And then we're partners in that, and I think that would really help us be able to go to people and ask. Again, instead of asking for $5,000, I'll give you $5,000. Well, how about giving us $3,000, 5 years, $15,000? So I think we can convince a lot more people to do that. And we're also going to do, like moms. We're going to have moms $100 a year for 5 years. All that we get 200 or 300 of those. Have a mom's club, have a dad's club, things like that. So there's low end we're going to raise money to. It's not all big end. We're going to go the whole gamut.
Mr. Sayer, did you have something?
Yeah, I think the second part of the question, regardless of the project, Mike and I talked a little bit about what was the estimated cost of kind of the earth activities that are out there. And I think it was 210, 220, 230, someplace.
Findorf came in at $175,000 for the parking lot, and we figured another $50,000 for the grading and the pond.
Yeah, so 225. So ultimately, if regardless of the project, if the council came to me and said, how do we find $225,000? Right now, I'd say you're probably going to have to borrow for it. So we had a similar arrangement actually with VACT. I don't think many of you are on council. A few of you are on council at that point. Evan's nodding and said yes, thank you. So I'm not losing my mind. We had a similar arrangement with VACT. We actually, as a city, we put that kind of the site work and the parking lot improvements in. So that's something that we did is for that as well. That cost us at the time $150,000. A little bit smaller project. 6 years ago, it was cheaper then as well. So not the first time we've done this. For that project, we did borrow the money. That was part of a borrowing package that we did. So I think initially as we've looked at that, most likely we'd probably have to borrow that. Regarding the $3 million to cover the pledges, we did reach out to Ellers and had a really very brief conversation with Ellers. Ellers is our financial consultant who we do most of our borrowing through. Ellers said we could do a state trust fund loan. That's a pool of money that the state actually has. So we looked at a 5-year loan just for easy math purposes. That comes out to a rate of 2.5% for us. So total cost of that loan, if you were to borrow that money at $3 million at 2.5% with fees, would be approximately $3.2 million. And then regarding the grants itself, $100,000, depending on how that is spread out. If it's spread out over time, we could probably find some money. We do have, just for sake of discussion, we do have about $500,000 in our revolving loan fund. That's a fund that we've utilized loans for the Treehouse, the 17th Radish in town. And we've also utilized that for VACT. VACT actually, ironically, just paid off their loan about 2 weeks ago. So we have approximately $500,000 in that fund as well. So just putting that out there for discussion. VACT, the loan they did with us was, I think it was about $350,000. That was, once again, 6 years ago as well. So just putting options out there from a financial standpoint.
Alder Touche.
Thank you. This is my 10th year on council. I've seen a lot of these groups come and ask for money and ask for help, and I'm glad you brought up VACT because that's a great example of how a good partnership between the city and a nonprofit, we're trying to get something done. And I'm all for supporting the ice rink and helping you guys achieve your goals. and this is more of an ask for Adam, you know, as I think about, and I've been at this for a while, the baseball fields, that we helped with some loans for the baseball fields, if I remember right. We did something with the lacrosse practice football field out there. We've done a lot, I think, for a lot of different organizations, and what I'd really like to get a sense of, what have we done in the past that we're comfortable with? So we have something to look at as kind of a guide to, well, then we can do this for new requests that come along, like the ice rink right now. And instead of always reinventing the wheel and, oh, we're going to give you this much, we're going to give you that much, I think you've already given some good examples of how we've leveraged the tools that the government and we have available to us. I think we kind of at least look back at how we've done it in the past and how we can apply some of those, I'll say, donations, generousness of the city where opportunities present themselves. I mean, land, if we got the land, it's kind of easy to sharing it. If we got to go out and buy land, that's a different challenge altogether, of course. Cleaning up sites, getting it planned, worked into our schedule, it's all good. So, I mean, I would like to ask Adam to, hopefully before the next council meeting, if you really need an answer right now, to at least inform the council, bring us up to speed in a more thoughtful, you know, in a more organized manner to help us make an informed decision. Because I do think we can do something. I mean, at the time with the VACT, we had a very passionate council member that worked very hard to ensure that the community theater was able to get what they needed. You know, they didn't get everything. And if I were you guys, I'd ask for the moon and settle for what you get, kind of a thing. And
we did it as an importance to us.
Yep. So I'm in support, but I'd also like to kind of look at everything we've done in the past so we can kind of apply that history to what's appropriate here. Thank you.
Alder Cronin, then Alder Hoax, then Alder Kemp.
I just wanted to say that in general, I am supportive of this request. I think it is good for Verona youth, and the economic impact it has on the community as a whole is appreciated when you bring that number of people in for tournaments and other events. But as another member of the Finance Committee, I would also like to have a little bit more time to digest some of the dollar specifics on this, but I would also encourage you, that would be very helpful for us, is to be able to give us a little bit more direction on your timeline, as Adam mentioned, because the coinciding of your budget and our budget, we have to figure out how to make that work. So if you can work with your fundraiser and with Adam to try to get that more specific timeline for us, I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, timing of this meeting going into obviously 2022 budget, where we're about, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks away from a lot more financial figures and numbers on the planning side. But when this meeting was and where we are and pushing out past 22, fall of next year would be probably the earliest for anything truly taking shape as far as construction-wise. I think our goal for us and for potential other user groups would be 1.5 years away from construction side. So definitely we can get some more numbers and figures.
I have Alder Hoax, then Alder Kemp.
Thank you. Full disclosure, I am a hockey parent and of two, a questionable coach of one. So no, I want to give you guys, I guess, both credit, both Ice Inc. and Joel for running the rink. I know 8-10 years ago, was like crippling debt is essentially what I was told is what we had going on, and you guys have worked your way out of that. And I know it's a lot of hard work from not only Ice Inc., but also the guys that run the rink. No, and I think and like Joel said, seeing your kids practice at 9:30 at night, that's not going to work. These kids, they got to go to bed, they got to go to school, right? So that's, I think getting another sheet obviously doubles what we have. I think getting tournaments in is something that, we travel to Dubuque, we travel to Minnesota, we travel all over. And you see just how much money, those tournaments can bring, and how much joy it brings the kids that can hang out in hotels together and the stupid things they do. And so I think bringing teams in here would be awesome for the city, especially at a time when there might not be a lot of things going on. There's not baseball tournaments, there's not Ironman. It's cold and it's dark winter, and the hotels would like to have bodies in them. So I think I'm certainly for it. I do think, I'm not a member of Finance Committee, thankfully. I would need some more guidance from them on exactly what previous deals have looked like. But I do think that, not to go too far into depth, but we have a beautiful new high school that cost us a lot of money, and they have a lot of great programs, whether it be arts, other programs like that, and also athletics. But I don't think the Hockey Association got much, if anything. So I think, with the amount of, interaction that we have and the retention of kids, and it keeps growing every year, I think that we need to figure something out. So I'm certainly all about helping to get it done, but getting numbers, we'll sit down with these guys. Thank you.
I have Alder Kemp, then myself.
The final thing I was just going to say, it seemed to me like their biggest ask was almost just a formality. Does anyone have a problem just agreeing to that today, or at least to just get the ball rolling? Or do we need to hold off on that?
We do need to hold off because it's noticed as a discussion-only item on the agenda,
All right.
so
All right.
we should follow the state law on that.
Well, yeah, certainly.
Although if people do have an opinion on it, they should express it to give, a clear idea to the applicant. Calling on myself, I just want to say a couple quick things. Yeah, people have referenced the VACT thing, and I think that was a partnership that worked out great. They did recently, as noted, pay off their loan, and they paid it off early. So, the community got something really great, and they paid off their loan early, so that's good. I did have one more thing, I guess, question for Mr. Sayer about how, in regards to the $100,000 grant, if that could be pulled out of tourism money over a series of, let's say, 3 to 5 years, especially since Lee Jordan of the Chamber spoke in favor of it earlier today, of the project, not necessarily of that.
Yes,
specific thing.
so that request would have to go to the Tourism Commission. The commission does have some reserve funds. Those reserve funds, quite honestly, were heavily drained as part of the pandemic. We've only recently started building those funds back up, so I think right now the reserves has about $60,000 or $70,000. The policy by the commission is to have at least $100,000 just in case we have a pandemic or a downturn in the economy, which we did, so fortunately we had that. But, potentially that request could go to the Tourism Commission to potentially look at those funds as well. And obviously, like with any funding, if it is spread out over time, it's typically easier to look at those versus a lump sum. So I can talk to Lee Jordan about that after the meeting and kind of discuss that too as well. But that is a possibility.
Thank you. And then just, my final comment is I think this is a really wonderful project. I think there's some details that need to be worked out, especially with this amount of money. And obviously, we need to be cognizant of how we protect the public and public funds, because the city has a lot of other stuff to run as well. But this is, I just think this would be a really good thing for the community if we can make it happen, and that we should try to do so. Other questions or comments from the council? Mr. Sayer.
I guess to wrap this up, so to be clear, what I'll do is I will keep talking with Mike and Joel, and we'll keep talking, get some more details on kind of the timing and whatnot in the coming weeks. Staff will pull together the information that was kind of discussed regarding the past history of other projects as well. The only question I had was to clarify, do you want this to kind of go back to finance as a discussion? I heard finance being referenced a few times and people not serving on that committee. We have 3 members on there. Do you want this to go back to finance, or do you want this to come back to the council as a discussion of this, or do you want to kind of run that through finance initially? I guess that's the clarification I'm looking for as staff.
I think it would have to go through finance just because the committees tends to be where all the details get worked out. Although I do think we should also probably send something to the Tourism Commission as well. So just, get a quick thumbs up or thumbs down on how it's going to be handled. And then I guess as far as timeline goes, when I guess could people, in the audience or up on the dais expect kind of answers on how it's going and when we'll start making decisions?
I think it comes down to just the timing of when you guys are looking to get a decision. When your other dates come together, I heard 2 to 3 weeks. It sounds like you're going to have some additional information potentially.
I think we'd like to know in a couple of weeks, at least, give us some direction. We're at the point where...
Mike, make sure you're talking to the
Mike,
microphone.
I can hear Andy yelling from the back.
We're at the point where we're getting final numbers as far as the building. We're getting 2 bids. Obviously, they're not complete bids. They're more of a, this kind of construction budget type of thing. We hope to have those done in a couple weeks. At that point in time, we're going to try to go with our partner and see if they really want to partner up with us or not. If they do, then obviously this can go a little bit faster. But I think that the bottom line for us is that we have to know, we can't go out and ask people, make it all be pledged money if we're not going to get support from the city. If we're going to get support from the city, I think we can raise a lot more money that way, and I think that would make the project go faster, and it'd be a lot healthier, I think, if we could do that. So we can't really go out and ask people for money unless we know how we're going to ask it. That's our main concern from you folks now.
Thank you. Mr. Sayre?
So I guess with that being said, what we can do is we can target an October 11th Finance Committee meeting. We can plan on trying to get something on the agenda to kind of have a more detailed discussion at that meeting. I don't know if it's going to get to council after that, but at least having it at the committee, and then we can kind of try to get something possibly to the council, depending how that meeting goes. Earliest would be October 25th. If that works for everybody, we'll target though the 11th at Finance.
And then I guess there's one final question for me to the council. Does anyone have strong objections to this project? Because staff and other alders are going to spend a lot of time working on it, and if someone has something that they're really against or really have a problem with, now would be the time to say so. Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of people shaking their heads, so I don't think that's an issue. Anyone have any last points on this item that they'd like to make? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 12, which is adjournment. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
Last thing I'd like to say, remember, it's all about the kids. It's all about the kids. Everybody knows me, they know why I say that.
Motion by Alder Touche, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Kemp. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And we are adjourned at 8:27 PM. Thank you.